JJ the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. We are going to dive into the PPP loan forgiveness calculation. And what I did is I created an Excel spreadsheet. You can go to my website, jjthecpahelp.com. You will see I've got a page called forgiveness, and none of this at all requires you to enter in an email address or nothing. So here I have a list of the documents that you're going to need. Got another video you should check out to go over that. But what we're going to go through is if you click on this PPP loan forgiveness calculation, okay, then we're going to go through this. So the first thing to note here is that, maybe I'll make this all a little bigger. Do this. And do 16. So here's what I did. Okay, starting here, this right here, see how it says B1 through 4? Okay, well, I just went into the law. Okay, we're in the section here of the law that talks about forgiveness. Okay, forgiveness. And I'm coming right down here, and I'm basically pulling all of this stuff into that calculation. Look at all that. Isn't that crazy? Right? So when we're talking about here, loan forgiveness, okay, forgiveness. Here's all the covered term means the loan and the liability and the period and all that good stuff. Okay, and then we're down to B, forgiveness, B1, B2, B3, B4, okay, B1, 2, 3, 4, okay, D, so you see all this language here, okay, I'll just show you one more time. See all that? See, each line item in that Excel spreadsheet, okay, through this, the amounts, calculation, it's all in here. That's what all these B1, D1, 2A, excuse me, is. So let's go with some numbers here. So if you look at your application, okay, what was the average monthly payroll cost per the application? So this example, we're going 25 grand. Now, this was not on the application, but it's just, what is 2 months worth? Well, 50 grand. So these two things are on the application, right? Your monthly, and then the monthly times 2.5. So when we hear, well, you got to use 75% of it for your loan, or 75% of the loan for the payroll, sorry. And then 25% max for rent, utilities, and interest. So this person got 62.5, 75% of that is for payroll, and no more than 25% on rent, utilities, and interest. So the first thing I want you to note is, look at this, okay? Look, these two numbers, okay? When you take this times 75%, it's 46 grand, which is less than, okay, 2 months of what was said to be the average payroll costs. Okay, so payroll costs that we're talking about here is the wages, the employer portion of insurance, the employer portion of retirement, and the state unemployment tax. Does not include employer payroll taxes. It is the gross pay of the employees. But what I'm just pointing out is, there's been a concern of like, well, what, 75%, well, 2 months average for the last 12 months was this. You take what you borrowed times 75%, okay? And here's the max. So let's come down here and we go, well, here's the actual that was spent. Actually, what was spent was $48,000 on payroll. There was $1,200 on interest. There was $8,000 on rent and $1,800 on utility. This is all 8 weeks. Okay, period. It's just 8 weeks of payroll. It's just 8 weeks of rent and utilities. So they spent 59 grand. So at first you think, oh wow, we are in great shape. Because look at this. Look at this. 2 months, 75% of that, spent 48. Boy, I'm scot-free. Okay. Well, if it ended there, you were. Now you look at this and you go, okay, well, you know, what's that amount? Well, it's $11,000. Okay. Oh, well, I didn't spend enough. You go, okay, so $3,500, it's unforgiven. I can handle it. Well, it's not actually how that works. You have to take into account the rest of this, right? So here's actually what was spent. You would think 3,500 is not forgiven, meaning you borrowed 62.5, you spent 59. Boy, sorry to be yawning. Did you just yawn? Did everybody in the room just yawn? Sorry about that. So you would think, okay, we're done, 3,500, put it over 2 years, boom, 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 boom. Well, maybe the banks will stop there. I don't know. We'll see, whatever. But when you take into account, now we're going to come down here, okay? And I'm going to work my way backwards, but there's a percentage to work out, okay? And one of those percentages is this, and one of those percentages is this. So 62 was the loan, okay? Actually, what was spent was 59, okay? But if you do this ratio, you come up with 67, which is higher than the loan. You do this ratio and you come up with 52, which is less than what was spent and less than the loan. Oh, you guys are going to kill me. You're going to be like, JJ, quit yawning. Okay, whether it's 9 a.m., noon, 1, 7 o'clock at night, you don't yawn, JJ. Okay, it's 4:03 a.m. my time. So we can't just, I think a lot of us, probably even me included, you think, oh, we're done. Okay, so check it out. I've read through it over and over and over and over. The first thing I want you to note here in this section, what's it say? The amount of loan forgiveness under this section shall not exceed the principal amount of the financing made available under the applicable loan. So of course you're not going to be able to forgive more than what you borrowed, right? But then here's what's really key. The amount of loan forgiveness, okay, shall be reduced, not increased, by multiplying the amount described in subsection B by the quotient obtained by dividing. Okay, there, I've got our division here, but what's B? Okay, what's sub B? Okay, it's all these things. It's not just the payroll cost. I mean, if you're reading the law, it's all of these things, not just the payroll. So here's what it wants to know. Average number of full-time equivalent employees per month employed by the eligible recipient during the covered period. Average, right? Not the beginning, not the end, average. Okay? So if you got, everybody's gone 1 month and they're back the next, right? Going to affect your average. Nobody's there for a month. 8 people are there the second month. You've got an average, okay? All right. So at the election of the borrower, we have these choices. Now, what are we talking about here? So let's just first break it down instead of trying to figure out what the election of what. Average number of full-time equivalent employees per month employed by the recipient during the period of February 15th, 19 through June 30, 19. Or you can take the amount average number of full-time equivalent employees per month employed by the eligible recipient during January 1st, 2020 to February 29th, 2020. It's the average, okay? So what I put in there is like, okay, well, the average during the covered period was 8. I just, I literally just pulled it out of the sky. And let's say that during February 15th to June 30 and 19, there was an average of 7. But then at the beginning of 2020, right, for those 2 months, there was an average of 9, okay, number of employees, okay? So here's the math. You take the amount in B, Okay? And what are you doing here? You're taking it by the quotient. What's the quotient? Well, there's 8 that were there during the PPP era. So 8 divided by 7, okay, is 114%. 8 divided by 9 is 88%, 88.89%. Well, I've just moved down here. There's the loan, and here's the amount actually spent. So I just have these carried down. So this was what was borrowed. This is what was spent. In total. So I'm going to take what I spent, okay? I'm going to take what I spent, that's the total of B, times 114%, and that's 67 grand. This times 114% is 67K. And then I have B here, which is what's the average number equivalent January 1st through February 29, 2020. Well, it's 88, okay? 8 divided by 9, 88%. So then I take the amount of spent times 88%, it's 52K. So I get to pick which one. I can use this one or I can use this one. Okay? Listen, it's not going to increase. I only actually spent that. But I'm going to pick, okay, well, I'm above. So then the actual unforgiven would be this amount right there. Okay, so it would be $3,500 because when I did my ratios, I got to pick the two. I'm A-OK. Okay. Now, let's just say that we have someone here and they're like, gosh, everybody was gone and I only had 1 month worth of payroll. Okay, so you got 24,000. Okay, so you spent a total of 35. You borrowed 62. 75% is the 46. You spent 24 on payroll. Okay, you had these others. You spent 35. 27,500. Okay, you borrowed 62.5. You spent 35. 27,500. Now you should just have that money sitting there. It should be literally sitting there. You only spent 24 grand on payroll and these other items. You have 35 grand spent. You borrowed 62.5. You should have 25 sitting there, or 27,500 sitting there. Now let's go back down to here. Okay, loan was this, actually spent 35. Okay, these percentages didn't change, right? Still 8, 7, and 9 employees. But we're going to take the actual spent times 114%, and then actual spent times 88, and we have the 31. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, I spent this amount. I'm unforgiven this amount. Okay. So when it says the loan forgiveness under this section shall be reduced by, not increased, by multiplying the amount described in the subsection by quotient, obtaining by dividing 8 into 7 and then 8 into 9. So you get to pick the election of the borrower. Okay? Well, I'm going to go with 40 grand. Okay? All right, well, I only spent 35. So 27.5 is unforgiven. Okay? Well, it's like, well, I mean, like, what, JJ? Well, know this, okay? It couldn't have been 8 if everybody was gone. It'd have to be 4. Okay? There'd have to be 4 people during that time period. All right, so you spent 35. You go, well, 27.5 unforgiven. I spent 35, 27.5 unforgiven. But this is indicating, though, something quite drastically different. I actually spent this, and during that period here, there was only 4 people. This is during the equivalent time, right? This is during the PPP era. There's only 4. Okay, no matter what, I'm less than what I was. So compared to 19, I'm 50%. I was at 57%. Compared to 2020, I'm at 44%. So now I'm going to pick this one. I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to go with that 20 grand. So you spent this. That would be the unforgiven. But then what does it say here? It says the amount of loan forgiveness shall be reduced by multiplying the amount described in subsection B by the quotient. By the quotient. So we have 20 grand on AA. See, AA, AA, BB, BB. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I've read this over and over and over and over and over. Okay? $57, here's 20 grand. This, boom, 15. I mean, is this saying that spent 35? Okay, but I'm only going to get credit as though I spent 20? That doesn't make any sense. But it says here, reduction based on reduction in number of employees. Like, what? So let's come down here. Remember, this is all from the law. Reduction relating to salary and wages. So it says in here, the amount of loan forgiveness under the section shall be reduced by the amount of any reduction in total salary or wages of an employee described in subparagraph B during the covered period that is in excess of 25% of the total salary or wages of the employee during the most recent full quarter during which the employee was employed before the covered period. Okay, you don't include over the 100. It talks about tipped workers. Okay, talks about the rehire here. Okay, all this stuff here. So I am going to wait until we get further clarification on all that other stuff. Here's the purpose of this video. Okay, you can't. How do you strategize this thing? Right? You don't know what your average is going to be for the covered period. You know, what's it going to be at the end? Because down below it talks about June 30. So you might be, I apologize, you might be thinking, well, JJ, I thought we were going to work through all this. I'm still trying to kind of figure it out, by golly. I mean, like, what? I'm still trying to figure it out. So I've read it. There's just nothing really out there. But all I know is you start playing with these numbers here, okay? You kind of start seeing like, okay, well, 75% of the loan was $46,875. Okay, my average monthly was 25. 2 months of that is 50. Well, I borrowed that times 75% is 46,875. So automatically, any of these, you already got a little buffer. But this only spent 24 grand. Everything else, only 35 was spent. And logically, gosh darn it, I apologize, 4:15 a.m. Logically, you just go, okay, well, 27.5 is unforgiven. Got it sitting there, just write them a check. It seems like, though, we have other repercussions, right? Because we come down here and we go, all right, we got all this here. We had 4 equivalent employees per month, okay, by the eligible recipient. Average number of full-time So loan was this, spent this, but these other equations. I'm terrible. I'm so glad you're not paying for this. I'm so glad it's free. But I do have this up there so you can play with it. I'm going to leave these numbers in here and take out some of these highlights. So more to be determined. I mean, just, put a big note in here, use at your own risk. You need to check the formulas. This is provided as a courtesy. The formula cannot be relied on. Check your math. Use at your own risk. Boy, I gotta go to bed now. This is more just a show. How do you strategize this? What? I got to know a guy, and his name was Shug. He's a white guy. He's like 70. They call him Shug. Still do. He's still with us. Anyways, he'd be like, "What?" Right, Amanda? He'd be like, "What? What? 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 What?" There is no strategy. Okay? There is no strategy in this thing. I mean, get it, go through it. Okay? This whole thing I pulled from the law. Just run the numbers. Okay? I got it started. This reduction in the salaries and wages. Yes, if you replace it, then it looks like it'll help ignore this factor right here if you don't replace them. But gee golly, I mean, by this point, we're all going to be pretty much in the same period anyways, getting the money mid-April. You're to the point of mid-June. You're in your 8 weeks. So more to be determined on this, but I'm personally just going to wait until we get more SBA guidance in terms of more definition of anything else that might be included in those qualified expenses. Maybe they shift it to 12 weeks. I think there's a possibility for that. So that's why, I've just taken it as far as I need to for me, as far as I need to for my clients. I wrote everything in there. If anybody takes this, Excel spreadsheet, kind of runs the rest of it, it'd be really awesome if you'd email it to me. I got it started. Or if you've got something else, if you could send it to me that you're using. The banks haven't even really given an inkling about how they're going to approach this. I'm sure they'll come up with some kind of software which will be fantastic. But at the end of the day, just spend on what you need, okay? I'm looking at that, I'm like, well, surely I'm not going to be, if I spend it on, if I borrow this, I spend it on this, and it's sitting there, here's your $27,500. Surely that number doesn't mean that I got to pay back more than $27,500 if all I did was spend on payroll and the utilities and the rent and blah, blah, blah. Like if I spend it only on the things that are needed, and the number that I put in there was like for half of a month, I only put 24 grand in there. Say everybody was gone for a month, and then everybody did work for a month. And see, that's why when you're talking about the average number, okay, you can't just hire people right at the end. You can't just hire people right at the end of the 8 weeks. You can't give out raises. It makes sense to what they're doing, but in terms of predicting it, here's what I know. If you have 8 employees and you still had 8 employees and you still have 8 employees and you still have 8 employees, well, you're not going to have any issues other than your 75%. Well, easily, if you kept all the same employees, easily, right? You borrowed this times 75% is 60. Well, if your average monthly payroll is 25 grand, 2 months is 50. You borrowed this. Well, 75% of this is only 46,875, which is less than the 50 grand. How? Because this is the average of the last 12 months. So I'm going to move this back to 88,000. And I was going to go with 8 there. So I'm throwing up there for y'all, and all of you guys that want to chew on this, it'd be great. Kenda, Julio, Diana, Tracy maybe, Clay maybe. Clay's the architect. And I know I'm missing, I don't know if Fred would. I know Robert's not. He's not going to try and figure this crap out. Maybe Nancy. Take a look at it. I'm not sure about Gene. So I'm not stumped. I'm not puzzled. I just want further clarifications, and I'm sure that the SBA will give us some other examples of how that's supposed to work and how it falls all together. So instead of trying to figure out at 4:22 a.m., number one. Number two, we know they're going to provide more guidelines. They're going to probably change some things, add some things, clarify some things. I think I'm just going to wait for that. And then everything's in here. I mean, this is all from the law. The only thing I'm just not continuing is the formulas. Overall theme here, can't strategize it. And I guess you could. How? How? It's average per month. It's based on 12 months prior average. This was just like, hey, here's some money. Go to the movies, have some licorice and some popcorn and Coke Icy. Bring me back the change. You bring back the change. They go, oh, you can just give it over to me. Give it back to me in the next 2 years. Wow. My goodness. Here's the thing. I'm glad I'm not the bank, because I don't have to figure out any of this for my clients, right? This isn't on a tax return. All I got to know from the bank is how much was forgiven, how much wasn't. That's it. So we know what to reflect. All right. All right. I'm heading to bed. Appreciate y'all. JJ, the CPA here. Hey, got a book for sale. JJ, the CPA here. Right back there. Get on Amazon. Top 60 questions over the last 27 years of my career. All right. JJ the CPA here. America's CPA. Signing out. Don't you ever forget, you've never met anybody as unique and awesome and as spectacular and so cool as you. And I appreciate watching my video. I'm loving this. We're in it together now. Right? Boom. We got it. Reality show. Right? Reality show. I think Amanda and I are going to get like a van. Like one of those vans you can stand up in. Get big old, get some like magnetic decals on the side. JJ, the CPA here. All right. We'll see you. Have a good night. Day. Morning. Afternoon. I tell you this right now, though, quick comment. I'm not going to, that top formula here, okay? That top, when I say top formula, I'm talking about this right here, okay? Hey, client, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this. Okay, now you know what you need to do. Now just go do what you do. Mind bender. Because I need to get back to doing tax returns, yo. Boom. JJ the CPA out. For real. Seriously. You guys ever seen Ferris Bueller? Remember at the end? You know, the credits are going. He's like, what are you still doing here? What are you still doing here? You're asking me that. What are you still doing here, JJ? Go to bed. All right.